Greetings, everyone, and welcome to the Growing from the Root second public meeting. A huge and sincere thank you for connecting with this online engagement offering and opportunity. So really quick, I would like to introduce myself. My name is Maika. I identify as a Black woman, a mother, a daughter, sister, aunt, cousin, and friend. I'm a worker. I was born and raised and have always lived in Philly, so I'm a Philly joint, right? I love the color green. I love food. I love to eat. I love nature, being outside. I love summer, right? I believe in my whole body that one day all oppressed people will be free, right? I believe there's no sustainability, never has been, but there's no sustainability in domination. And which is why one of the reasons why I'm grateful for this space, this reimagining or continuing the work of urban agriculture in Philly. Especially through the lens and the work of Black, brown, indigenous farmers and land workers, because I think that's how you get free, right? Working the land, eating from the land, being respectful of the land, and what better way to do that in Philly, right? So again, very important work, much needed work, and I'm just, again, grateful for this opportunity. And really quick, just a few things, like as narrating and reading things, a few words that I use quite often are like right and yes and okay, but it's just affirming words for me. So if I'm reading at something and I say those words, just know that I felt that or what somebody said, and I think that's important, especially when you're doing work as collective work, that you can feel easy being your whole self, right? So again, very important work. I'm so honored to be a part of this, and I look forward to what comes of it. Thank y'all. We wish we could be together right now to walk through these updates and activities together, but please know we took all the ideas, thoughts, and amazing energy in that room back in December 2019, and we are channeling them as we adjust and adapt this planning process. For this meeting, we are excited to share all of the information we had developed for the March 2020 public meetings with you digitally instead, and we're going to try to do this together online, and hopefully we'll have a good time doing so. So, as a grounding recap, the purpose of this video is to refresh everyone's memory about what we talked about at the first public meeting, explain where we are in the planning process, and review what we're hoping to accomplish together here online, right now and in the weeks to come. So in the midst of the coronavirus pandemic, we want to reiterate that this work on urban agriculture in Philly is grounded in food sovereignty, self-reliance, and community healing, and is more important and necessary than ever. Some of the news headlines within this past year in relationship to the coronavirus pandemic are food supply chains breaking down, unemployment skyrocketing, and the access to food being jeopardized to people who need it the most. Also, the rates of infection and death caused by COVID-19 are and still is disproportionately higher in Black and brown and indigenous communities, and the risk of exposure is higher for essential workers in healthcare, childcare, public service, and transportation, where people of color make up a large share of those workforces, right? And so these inequities in our city and in broader societies that COVID-19 has highlighted are not new, right? We know that these are not new. And neither is this movement to protect, expand, and sustain urban agriculture in Philly. We have been growing food, building power, and working towards this urban agriculture plan for decades. And really quick, I just want to highlight a quote, right, from the amazing Ashley Gripper. Hey, Ash. It goes, "We don't farm because it's trendy. We farm as resistance for healing and sovereignty. Farming is not new to Black people." And when I read that quote, I think about the late, great Fannie Lou Hamer and the work that she did for her community. It was based in sovereignty, connectivity, and freedom, right? And so again, just letting us remember that this is not new work, but it's much needed work, right? And one thing is for sure, this movement has reaffirmed the foundation for growing from the root, Philly's urban agriculture plan. And this plan will advance health by increasing access to nourishing food and preserving beloved community spaces, right? Racial and economic equity by acknowledging the systems of power that have disempowered Black, Brown, and Indigenous communities for generations, and by centering these voices and experience. Okay. Culture by honoring the bridge between cultural heritage and growing practices which reinforce and sustain each other. Resilience by supporting a local food system that increases access to nourishing food, restores soil quality, mitigates the heat island effect, manages stormwater, and reduces food waste and transportation costs. History by pulling from past precedents as we explore new policies, programs, and possibilities, y'all. And that's a lot that we're working towards. And that's why we put together this short video presentation. And just again, to just reiterate what the Growing from the Root plan will advance: health, racial economic equity, culture, resilience, and history. Now, for a quick recap of our first public meeting back on December 3rd, 2019 at the Central Library, because it's been a while since we were together. Now, if you can remember back at that day, I can remember some things, right? I remember that it was energizing. It was a huge turnout, standing room only. I was grateful that I found a seat, right? I also remember the beautiful poem by Kalia Pitts that they shared. So it was overall a good time. But one thing I also felt is that more Black, Brown, Indigenous people like myself who live in communities that have food, that are food deserts, right? A lot of trauma and stress, lack of outdoor safe spaces, things like that could have and should have been in attendance. So, but hopefully in this virtual space that we are gathering in, it'll be more opportunities for folks, like I said, like me, that have identified, to participate in this amazing creation, right? So, but overall, this time was a good time. Now, who came out to the meeting? It was 259 sign-ins, 135 people said they garden or farm, at least 50 community gardens or farms were represented, and 111 other organizations and departments. During that time together, we asked two questions. One, how do you define urban agriculture? And two, what do you value about urban agriculture? And through those two questions, 181 responses were received. Thank y'all for that, y'all. Okay, now in response to I define urban agriculture, a lot of words were more shared from you all than others. So on this slide, the bigger the word, the more you all used it, right? So words like urban, city, food, growing, space, land, grow, people within, production. And a quote from that night in relation to this question is the cultural, economic, historical, educational, intergenerational practice of growing food, preserving food, cooking food, and sharing food in a city. Yes, totally agree with that. Love that quote. In relation to I value urban agriculture, because some of those bigger words were healthy, community, land, food, people, grow, urban, provides access. And a quote in relation from that particular question from that night was it breeds resistance through community control of our backyards and the open green spaces that still exist under capitalism. Yes to that. Now, the second part, if you remember, of that evening, we spent in small groups. All 300 of us broke into 19 groups to tackle 6 different topics. And the questions in relationship to those topics were: what is working, what is not working, and what do you want in relationship to accessing nourishing food, growing locally, community building and healing, learning to grow, seeding economic opportunities, and reducing food waste, right? So These next slides are just some of the things that we learned from you all that night, and we learned a lot, but these are some of the things that we wanted to share on these slides. So one being that we learned at night is that the urban agriculture community is broad, diverse, and passionate, right? It includes people from across the city and in different communities. And many of these communities see urban agriculture as a movement aiming to reduce the harms of inequity, poverty, speculative capitalism, and more. We also learned that urban agriculture is much more than about produce, right? It's gardening, being linked to self-determination, resilience, and healing, right? Growing creates space for cultural connections to occur and thrive. And also that losing a garden or farm to development can be a traumatic experience. So, yeah. Also, we learned that urban agriculture is a manifestation of collective past, present, and future. It's the practice of growing, being tied uniquely to community histories of resilience. Urban agriculture confronts some of the big challenges our city faces, including access to nourishing, culturally relevant food in systemically disadvantaged communities, reducing food waste, and confronting gentrification. Yes, right? We want to get free, y'all. And a major key takeaway is that it is all connected, right? Everything is connected. So, for example, in relationship to this connectivity, one strategy that the plan puts forward is legalizing hens, and this could benefit all 6 topics that framed the first public meeting. So again, being connected is so vital to this work. And so now we've reached an exciting moment in the planning process. We're ready to share some of these concepts and ideas with you to get your feedback. We want to know, did we hear you? Did we understand what you told us? And are we heading in the right direction? You may recall from the first meeting that we talked about the importance of your input. We're building this plan together, and that your words and ideas will inform that plan. So here we are on phones and home computers, working through meeting 2, which is about goals, ideas, and concepts, really, that will shape the plan's recommendations and strategies. So again, y'all input is so very important to this process. Where did the concepts that we'll be sharing with you come from? They were informed by urban agriculture public hearing testimonies back in 2016, by the pre-planning efforts led by FPAC, by ongoing grassroots advocacy efforts and discussions with the city, and of course directly from you. Any speech bubble you see is a direct quote from the first public meeting. The rest of the video will give you an overview of the stations 2 through 10. They are all interactive, sharing some information about the topic and asking for your thoughts. You can visit them all or choose just the ones that interest you the most. So again, the next couple slides are in relationship to stations 2 through 10. Station 2 contains an interactive timeline that roots the tradition and practice of urban agriculture in Philadelphia across 4 eras, spanning the original settlements of indigenous people to movements and responses to food scarcity and plots we know today. Station 3 is about the relationship between growers and land, while acknowledging the history of colonization, genocide, and anti-Black racism. It's about the need to preserve existing gardens and understand what is keeping folks from growing and where, and keeping track of lost gardens. Station 4 focuses on community gardens and the different kinds of resources that are needed to help them thrive. The purpose is to increase resources for community gardens and the people and communities who tend them. Please tell us what your community garden needs, most in terms of land, skills, and training, resources for cultivating community, and support in navigating institutions. Station 5 is about animal keeping. The goal here are to increase awareness about how and why people keep animals in the city and to explore needed policy changes that support animal keeping in Philadelphia. What we're asking you to do is to tell us whether you are in favor of policies that support the keeping of these animals in Philadelphia and why. Station 6 is about farming careers and businesses. We want to understand how to strengthen the pipeline to local farming jobs and careers and how to grow Philly's agricultural business sector. We are asking you to help identify the barriers that people face so that this plan can develop a targeted solutions. Station 7 is about educating the next generation of growers. The purpose of the station is to better position our city to encourage the next generation of growers with programs that teach and inspire. We need you to tell us what types of skills and programs will attract youth and adults who want to learn, and also how to better support people who want to teach. Station 8 offers information about seeding, saving, and explores cultural practices related to growing. We're hoping you will offer feedback on what new resources for seed saving will be useful to you and share stories that tie your experiences growing and gardening to your culture, heritage, and identity. Station 9 explores existing city policies and ideas for new policies, programs, and partnerships that can support Philly's food system and create living wage jobs. For each idea, we talk about the city role, what the city role is, and what the community role is, to make sure that the initiatives we invest in serve the community and uphold community values. We want to know whether or not you like these ideas, what it will take to make these ideas better, and how to ensure that these new policies and programs remain accountable to community values. And finally, Station 10 is about prioritizing. We want you to help us weigh these ideas and let us know what tips to scale for you. Weigh in on what we do first as a city in partnership with growers and residents. All you have to do here is to vote for your favorite idea, and then you are done. And so, if you find any of this information and or questions presented at this online meeting stations confusing or difficult to complete over the internet, please call and leave a message at 215-645-2145 with the best way to reach you, or email us at growingfromtheroot@gmail.com. Again, the email is growingfromtheroot@gmail.com. We will get back to you to make sure your voice is heard, y'all. Okay, you're ready to explore the other stations. If you're ready, click below to move on to the next station, which explores the history of growing in Philadelphia. And again, a huge and sincere thank you for tuning in. I'm looking forward to the work that will come of this, y'all.